To meet the elite. Ashford Publishing Radio is on the air. Welcome to Ashford Publishing Radio, brought to you by AshfordPublishing.com, an exclusive membership site for today's industry leaders and tomorrow's superstars. Ashford Publishing Radio brings you experience, wisdom, and informed opinion from some of today's most influential executives and professionals. Join us on air to hear from AshfordPublishing.com's most exclusive members as we learn about their interesting lives and professional passions. It's never been easier to learn from truly exceptional people than it is from people that belong to AshfordPublishing.com.
I'm Gigi Ornetta, and today we are pleased to have as our guest a member of AshfordPublishing.com who lives an interesting life as the CEO at Meade Willis. It's my pleasure to welcome to the show Mike Barsky and the VP of Operations, Anthony Nelson. He's also here with us today. Thank you both for being here today.
Good afternoon, Gigi. How are you?
Hi there.
Great. Hi, Anthony. So let's go ahead and start with Meade Willis and the types of electronic communications. We were kind of talking before the show started a little bit about the cloud technology, but let's go back to electronic communications and the options that you have available to your customers and your suppliers.
For sure. Meade Willis was formed back in 1995 with the intent of supplying e-business type solutions to small, medium enterprises. And it was just around that time that the Internet came into vogue. We then decided that our solutions would be Internet-based or cloud-based, in fact. And so we've developed all our applications in that realm. As well, we handle private communications for organizations that want to run through private networks. So we have a combination of the Internet for small, medium enterprises who can't afford the high cost of private networks, and for larger enterprises who will want to retain their private networks. What we do is we handle business transactions on behalf of our clients and connect the small, medium companies to their larger trading partners. We also have a complete suite of supply chain solutions, again, oriented toward the small, medium enterprise who can't afford the high cost of supply chain software on site. In fact, the way we operate is that our customers only need an Internet connection. They don't need any special software, and we will then allow them to transact business between themselves and their larger trading partners.
Is there a particular business that you find will benefit the most from this?
We have oriented our organization toward the manufacturing sector.
Okay.
And so suppliers who provide parts or products to companies such as Sears or General Motors or Walmart could very well benefit from the types of service we offer.
Do you find that your service is good, too, for the small business owner who's mobile?
Absolutely. We recognize the need for mobile capabilities, and in fact, our transactions, our services are mobile-oriented as well.
For our listeners who may not know what the cloud technology is, can you just give it a little whirl here, just something real basic for our listeners that are used to doing it the old-fashioned way?
Sure. Typically, what most people understand today is that cloud-based is handling storage off-site. So you don't have to have much disk storage on-site for you to store your data. In our case, we go beyond that because we offer software services. You might have heard the term SaaS, software as a service. And so in our case, you don't need any applications on your site to handle these business transactions. Nevertheless, it is cloud-based because it is in the ether world of the Internet.
Wow. Well, it sounds promising, especially for the small business owner. How does it help the person that has a really big corporation, though?
What it does in that case is that these large organizations want to become more efficient, as we've seen recently, where companies have to become more efficient to be competitive. To do that, however, they have to be able to have their trading partners, their suppliers, communicate with them electronically. And so In many cases, they've mandated that to do business with these large organizations, their trading partners, their suppliers will have to do so electronically. On the small medium side, as a supplier of brakes to General Motors or T-shirts to Sears, you would require special software to be able to handle that kind of requirement. And so what we've done is we've made it such that you would only need, as I mentioned earlier, an internet connection, and you're able to complete their mandate by communicating with them electronically. This is all secure, of course, and it's very, very efficient and very beneficial to both parties.
Let's go over to Anthony for a minute. You're an expert in integrated supply chain solutions. Can you tell us what it is how does that work with Meade Willis? What is a little bit more about that part of the company and what you do?
Sure. Well, it's like Mike was saying, the company's been around for many years at this point, mm-hmm. and had its roots in basically in the online EDI cloud-based solutions. What happened is companies got on board initially. Most of the large companies got on board early, the early adopters, and over time they started to basically fill the space. As the smaller and medium companies got more involved, they saw what the bigger partners were doing. Obviously, they were doing it because it was giving them some benefits financially, in efficiency. And they were looking for more and more ways they could automate themselves and their processes. So the large companies were trying to get more efficient. The medium companies and small were following as well. And what Mike was saying before is it put pressure on the small ones to comply with initiatives that the larger companies were doing. A good example would be Walmart. If you wanted to become a supplier for Walmart, you had to do EDI. So there was no choice. What happened is a lot of these companies have other systems as well that link to their warehouse system, that link to their inventory or accounting systems or shipping systems, logistics systems as well, and a lot of the information is shared between them. So basically they're looking for systems where they can automate as much as possible, reduce user entry errors, link to existing data, existing data warehouses, which could be on the cloud as well. This type of information can come from other systems, other applications, other sources, and find a way to basically integrate them, which is what we're talking about as integrated systems. This is, primarily the case is a lot of the companies that started with EDI eventually linked to back-end systems, ERPs, MRPs, WMS, warehouse management systems, and so on.
Now both of you, when you get to a company and they call you and they say, Mike, Anthony, we're ready and we want to do this, we know this is going to make us more efficient and competitive, what's the first step?
First step, there's a lot of first steps because there's a lot of variation in demands. But the first thing we usually do is ask them what they're trying to accomplish. And that's a standard for almost any field, but definitely in IT. IT these days is very closely linked with the business departments as well. So they all have their own goals. So the first questions are, what are you trying to accomplish? Are you trying to get set up so that you can communicate with one of your larger partners? Or are you trying to create a portal to make more efficient at your own location for your own suppliers? Are you trying to integrate a shipping system with, say, a warehousing system? Or are you trying to replace manual entry at a warehouse with a scanner system? It's basically just the initial questions is trying to figure out what the customer wants. And from there, we can lead into a whole slew of possibilities.
Let's just say we're talking about a T-shirt, a person who handles T-shirts and hats, and they will now be working with Walmart, just so we can keep it simple. They call you and they ask for your assistance. Do you actually go to the T-shirt company and go work with them directly, or do you just do it all also by internet? How does that work?
We do a little bit of both. It depends on the situation, the size of the project, how complex it is. But a lot of it, many times a lot of it can be done online through virtual conferences, email communications, definitely phone conferences. in the example of Walmart, we do have quite a few Walmart suppliers using this system. We know that what is required. We know the EDI, the electronic data interchange standards that Walmart requires. So we know what they need. In that case, someone calls and we say, well, look, this is what Walmart requires from you. We confirm that this is indeed the programs they're trying to get set up with. And then we basically ask them, are you looking for something that's more integrated with an internal system of yours, or are you just looking for something simple, particularly for a small manufacturer or someone new to the electronic data interchange scene? They might want just a standard system to communicate back and forth with Walmart, receive purchase orders, send invoices, receive error messages, and so on.
Just to add one more point to that, they don't have to know anything about EDI or communications or whatever. We will set it all up. We will manage the communications. They do get from us training, online real-time training, so that they know how to handle the data as it comes in. But when it comes in, it's in English. They log on to the internet, they enter their password and ID to our site, to our portal. We know who they are, we know with whom they're dealing, and then they can see their orders that they've received today or in the past. They can then create invoices through templates or shipping notices, even generate barcode labels. So for the end user, our customer, it's extremely simple. And again, what that enables them to do, of course, is to comply with their larger trading partner requirements.
Mike, when you say that it's that simple, if you were to just take a guess, how long does it take for someone to learn how to use the system? When you're talking about half an hour. Wow.
Yep. Because that's the training that we provide. We do all the setup for them. Now, again, we're talking some pretty basic operation, as Anthony mentioned, receive POs, send out invoices. If we want it integrated, or the customer wants it integrated to their applications, then there's more work to be done, of course. But just to do the very basic communications with their trading partners, literally half an hour, because that's how long the training takes.
Wow, that is crazy fast. Let's just say they have everything in Peachtree, well, that's probably not going to work because it's payroll, but let's just say something real basic like Word, and they need to change it over in order to meet Walmart standards. Do they link onto another program, or is that something that you just create something to fit that manufacturer, or how does that work?
There's quite a few different ways to handle that type of situation, but generally, we kind of classify that as kind of a conversion project, any to any. We often call it any format to any format. In this case, we know, just to use, say, Walmart again as an example, we know Walmart requires a 5010 version of a particular EDI document. It's a specification. So the supplier is able to export something from their internal system. Could be, like you said, a Word document, an Excel document, a comma-separated file, could be proprietary formats. It doesn't really matter. Basically, we take that. There's a few ways they can get the file to us, either directly through the web interface, through an online portal. There's direct connections to us, secure FTPs, AS2 connections. There's a lot of ways they can get us the file. We receive it and basically design a converter program that takes, in this case, a Word document. The values are all plotted out in a certain position, and they take it and replot it into a EDI format that, in this case, Walmart would expect. And that's basically all there is to it. That part is not really seen on the supplier side. Mm-hmm. All they see is basically they take a file from their system and, say, upload it through the web interface, and Walmart gets the invoice. So. Wow.
And what about security? You mentioned secure FTP sites, but how secure is it?
It's extremely secure, actually. There's different levels of security. We do also handle some information for Canadian government for the warehouses, bonded warehouses and so on, and there's full encryption. There's different levels of security, basically different classifications, depending on the sensitivity of the data. For a standard situation, logging in through a web portal, yes, there's a validation of username and passwords. However, even for, say, an example of someone trying to do something maliciously, there's no access direct to databases, to information, to supplier accounts, to anything like that. As far as security of transmission, like SFTP protocols and things like that, obviously on air or anywhere else we wouldn't get into the procedures in place.
Of course not.
We have quite a few methods to handle.
It's secure. That's all that matters, right?
Well, yeah. In a nutshell.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and let our listeners know real quick. The website address is Meade Willis. That's MEADE Willis.com if you'd like to take a look at it. We're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we're going to keep talking a little bit about Meade Willis's ability to get you guys up and running, integrated supply chain solutions, and also the other things that the company offers. I'm talking today with Mike Barsky, and I'm also talking with Anthony Nelson. And I'm Gigi Arnetta. You're listening to Ashford Publishing Radio. We'll be right back after these messages.
Are you concerned about the healthcare and education crises? On the heels of Ashford Radio's highly successful Claire Power Murphy radio show comes the Claire Power Murphy TV show. As director of the Self-Rejuvenation Center, Claire now offers hope for the future. Tell your friends and tune in weekly at www.selfrejuve.com. That's SELFREJUV.com.
And this year's Top Business Professional Executive Award goes to Paul Peterson.
Thank you. First, allow me to thank a man who gave me the most important piece of advice in my professional career. The man who told me it's all in who you know. Second, I'd like to thank Ashford Social Media for connecting me with so many of you leaders and business professionals. I'd like to thank Ashford Social Media for their features, like video profiles, for press releases, and for Ashford Publishing Radio.
It's all in who you know. Go to ashfordsocialmedia.com today to become a member. Connect with all of our elite members like Paul Peterson.
AshfordSocialMedia.com allows me to network with executives and professionals.
Go to ashfordsocialmedia.com and see what it means to be a member. Join today and you can get your first month free. Go to ashfordsocialmedia.com today and remember, it's all in who you know.
If you're a veteran of Iraq or Afghanistan, like me, coming home can be harder than expected. But it turns out I wasn't alone. At IAVA.org, there's a free online community of thousands of vets who've got your back. Whether it's managing the transition home or everyday stuff like finding a nice sweater for my dog.
Sweater?
Okay, maybe not that. Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans of America is there for you. Join our community at IAVA.org.
We got your back.
Brought to you by IAVA and the Ad Council.
And we're back. This is Gigi Arnetta, and I'm talking today with Mike Barsky and Anthony Nelson of Meade Willis. You're listening to Ashford Publishing Radio. Let's continue now on Meade Willis and the different things that you offer. Now, you also offer solutions, and not solutions and services, but solutions specifically. What kind of troubleshooting do you cover? And how do you do that with a customer if they come to you with a problem?
Well, I guess I'll take that one. It's well, as far as troubleshooting, I guess that's a big question because there's a lot of areas where I guess people can have questions or run into issues. Generally, though, the programs on the simplest side are ones that we've already developed, we've already tested. We have multiple suppliers, sometimes hundreds of suppliers actually, using some of them for 10, 12, 15 years, some of the programs. So we can safely say that they're bug-free. In those cases, there's not a lot of troubleshooting. There could be cases where individual suppliers or clients might not be aware of what type of values they should put in these online forms and things like that, but they're not going to run into technical issues. However, well, when they get into larger projects or larger development projects, the majority of the troubleshooting would be done during development phase. There would be a development, there would be a long-term testing, there could be parallel testing, and then eventually programs go live. After that point, we have, in our case, 24/7 customer support and things like that on the technical side. But there's always people testing the programs out to the point where we are confident and the customer is confident and their customers are confident. They're not going to run into technical issues.
if you could do this without mentioning any names, was there ever one particular client that was really difficult as far as it was a challenging task, but then very rewarding at the end when you got it finished? Is there any possible war stories out there without mentioning any names?
Yes. You know what? The small projects are simple, and it's always nice to get something off your plate. Right. But as far as rewarding, and definitely not in a negative connotation, the most interesting projects and the most rewarding are the most complicated. And we run into projects where there could be 1,100 exception codes within a program. We have one where a customer sat down and said, look, we have a manufacturing plant in the southern states. We have who is producing half of a product. We're using a particular enterprise resource planning program. However, we have to coordinate with an outsourced location in China who's using a different enterprise resource planning system, and it's a different company that's contracted, so they don't have access to each other's data. Both of them are manufacturing half of a product, which has to ship almost in unison to meet up at an assembly plant in Spain. And obviously, if you have half of a product, you have to have them in equal amounts, otherwise you can't complete the product. And from there, they ship them to production facilities throughout Europe. What happens is the customer says, look, we have no visibility of what's happening in China. We can't tap directly in their system. A, they won't allow it. And B, we have to stay on top of things. Spain has to coordinate with both locations, and they come and they basically say, on top of that, we are supplying individual plants who are all placing orders to us. How can you help us?
What do you do when you get that phone call?
Yeah, exactly. So then we sit down and we have some discussions, and some of the more complicated cases we would go visit them, but it's to plan out the project from start to finish, the implementation, the actual onboarding, coordinate between all the locations and different stakeholders, because in this case they're different entities from different companies all collaborating on one project. And when the solutions are finally deployed, it's extremely rewarding. And anyway, this was a long story short, but we're actually describing a real situation. It's in use now, and I think they're feeling pretty good about it as well.
Wow, and how long does it take to correct something like that?
Well,
or to make it work right?
It wasn't actually a correction. It was a situation that had to be resolved. They were kind of using workarounds, sending emails back and forth, Excel sheets and things like that. It's just not as convenient, it's not as secure, it's not as reliable, and it's not as efficient.
Right. Well, you definitely lose a lot of time when you're operating like that, and time is money, right?
Exactly. Timeliness is critical in all these cases. As Anthony says, the coordination of the products arriving into Spain had to be very accurate. That you couldn't have half a dozen articles from one side and only two from the other side. They had to be there. They had to be assembled and then shipped off. So, yes, timing was critical.
Yeah, that particular project probably took about maybe a month and a half, but many of the projects, it depends. They can be actually same day even for programs that already exist, and we want to onboard them onto a just web EDI platform, like the Walmart example. It's very quick because those are existing programs versus developments or solution customizations and things like that, which of course can take more time.
Well, you're obviously definitely global because you're interacting with different countries. Is there any particular country that you found to be more challenging as far as paperwork or getting things done?
There's a couple, but it really depends on the laws. Say if you're doing electronic invoicing, like e-invoicing, there's some compliance requirements with different countries which are a little bit more stringent, I should say. Singapore might be one. There's a few, if you're going to deal with France, there's a few special compliance rules that you have to follow and things like that, versus the same country where you're not subjected to the same procedures. The
other challenge, of course, is when we provide training, which is, as I mentioned earlier, real time online. And if the individual receiving the training doesn't understand English that well, it takes a little more time to get the message through. Right. And we've seen that when we've dealt with some Far East customers.
When you're working with people overseas, too, you're dealing with shipping times and a variety of different things, even just when you're doing training, not to mention when you go ahead and get everybody online, as you call it, I believe it's onboarding. What do you see for the future of your company as far as growth and changes that are coming that are very good? Do you see anything new coming in to your vision?
Well, yes, we're excited about that. Actually, we're seeing more and more automation on for example, as Anthony mentioned, in WMS, warehouse management systems, and within that we see things, a wireless capability increasing considerably. So we also see the language issue being an issue, but with the translation capabilities, we could get around that, make it easier for companies in Europe or the Far East to deal with organizations in the United States or Europe, whatever. So what it is the computer has made us capable of dealing with each other regardless of location, regardless of language, regardless of product. So we see a shrinking of the world, but an increase in efficiencies.
And what about someone who might be thinking of doing something in your line of work, maybe a college student who's considering working in the way that you do, not the normal cloud where you're storing, but really getting involved in business solutions? Do you have any words of wisdom that you'd like to give them while we have just a short amount of time left here on the air as to things that they should consider before getting into this business?
Certainly, if they are into programming, that would be beneficial, depending on how deeply they want to get. However, from our perspective, we would be looking at people who have supply chain capabilities or knowledge, and there are various certification techniques that they can have. That is important, because what we've seen, especially when you're dealing at the small, medium level, many of these people say they want to get into it, but they really don't understand what it is that they would have to do. And it's up to us to ask consultants, in fact, to explain to them, this is what you should be doing. Obviously, it's always their choice to decide whether they wish to do so or not. But they are looking for help. They've been told they've got to become more efficient. They've got to get their deliveries much more clear. And so if young people wish to get into this world, supply chain courses would be of extreme benefit. Okay.
And Mike, Anthony, how can our listeners reach you?
Well, they can reach us just through the web, of course. Contact us, or we have a 1-866-369-1146 number that they can call us.
Okay.
You can always send an email as well to mw@meadewillis.com. It's a group mailbox.
All right. And we encourage you to take a look at meadewillis.com when you have a second. I thank you so much, both of you, for joining me today.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Equally. You've been listening to Ashford Publishing Radio with my special guests, Mike Barsky and Anthony Nelson. Ashford Publishing Radio can be found online at ashfordpublishingradio.com. The archive of this and other Ashford Publishing Radio shows are available there, and they're also available on iTunes. Look for them as well on the exclusive membership site, ashfordpublishing.com. This is Gigi Arnetta, thanking everyone for joining us today and wishing you the best.